I got you, baby face.
Said to call in the CST scores after we got
You
it.
know what they said? They said St. Louis is probably going to need people. St. Louis is probably going to need people.
writes them in the countdown campaign.
The problem is getting someplace which is secure.
I'm convinced that the people of Oklahoma are supportive and that there are enough legislators in this legislature who indeed support it in their hearts, if not with their votes yet, and that's really our goal and our mission, is to get them to hear from their constituents so that they can vote their conscience.
Today, the day before Thanksgiving, the Central Oklahoma Indian Coalition sponsored a protest against President Reagan's budget cuts. Chanting "Reagan robs the needy," some 50 Indians gathered on North Hudson Street to begin their journey to the federal courthouse.
Reagan says cut back, we say fight back.
They say the federal government is backing out of promises to honor over 370 treaties that affect funding for Indian education, housing, and health care. Today's restraint march was an outcry for public support, but as David Hill warns, peaceful tactics may not get the job done.
We want the public to know what's happening. We want those congressmen and senators to know that we're not happy with it, and we're doing a very peaceful thing right now, and we hope it doesn't turn out like things in the 60s. But this is only a prelude to maybe what might happen in the future.
And do it the white man way if nothing else will work. We'll go through the congressmen and the representatives, letting them know.
The protesters were joined by several speakers on the steps of the courthouse. They zoomed in on the frustrations of Indians battling an age-old warfare with the white man. The cry rang out that if budget cuts continue, today's protest will not be the last. Carol Lambert, Action 4.
The Lifeline, the Heartline, Marriage Line, Headline, the Line of Mercury, Apollo, Saturn, Jupiter, the Plane of Mars. Palmists say they're wrinkles of revelation, or are they just one more sign you're getting older? There are signs everywhere beckoning you to come on in for a reading. The palmists say the lines in your hand tell where you've been, where you're going, and where you are now. Noni Batchelor Harris says she needs no advertising. Under a huge painting of light, she plies the same trade she has for the past 15 years.
It's not really a good fortune teller's gimmick. It's not going to tell you a whole lot about the future. You do a reading, it's like looking at the signpost to see if the person's really going in the direction they want to go in.
Noni claims to have dozens of clients, many of them famous, but she won't say who. And a lot of them were skeptical at first.
I think it was a matter of adventure, excitement. It was something interesting, and I wanted to go try it out and see what it was like. And I really was. I was amazed. I think inwardly you know if it's correct, if it's accurate.
And Danny Williams, using the stage name Mother, is a part-time fortune teller using playing cards from Oak Tree to predict the past. His strongest prediction is this: the capital of Oklahoma will be moved back to Guthrie. This is Jerry Adams, Action 4.
Since the PATCO strike, the success or failure of new air traffic control students has been a major newsmaker. The flack that's evolved from the second graduating class is making headlines across the nation. An original report of that class showed about a 22% failure rate, but today's revised edition points to just over a 30% washout rate. Accusations of grade fixing have circulated during the past week, but the director of the center, Benjamin Demps, denies those allegations and explains how the errors occurred. He says in the initial grade checking, some tests were sent through the computer while others were graded by hand in order to save time. Before the afternoon was over, rumors were surfacing that 17 failures had not been reported. That, Demp says, sparked an immediate rechecking of all tests, which he admits turned up an additional 13 failures. He attributes those mistakes, however, to an inadequate grading system.
And it appears to me, and it had appeared to me indeed a week ago, that a complete restructuring of the process appears to be needed. Some of those changes, that is to automate what is now hand-calculated data by instructors, has been underway since August of '81. But we expect some automatic grading capability to be with us in December.
Mr. Demp says he will be on hand Monday morning to assist the congressional committee that's coming in to investigate the alleged grade fixing. He does add, however, that he does not know whom they'll be talking with or what they'll be checking, but that he does feel sure their investigation will turn up a clean bill of health for the Academy. Carol Lambert, Action 4, at the Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center.
$114,649 students are expected to enroll in the state's college system next year. That's according to the Regents for Higher Education. Next year is expected to be the 5th consecutive year of nearly level enrollment. The Regents justify the $84 million increase in state funding in a year of no enrollment growth by pointing to quality education. The president of Oscar Rose Junior College, Dr. Joe Packnett, says inflation also has something to do with the increase.
We're asking for an increase to keep up with inflation, to keep up with some of the budgeted areas that in the past we have not been concerned with as much, primarily the maintenance of our buildings here. We're a young campus.
And Dr. Packnett says keeping the faculty satisfied requires more money.
We want to retain these people. We would like to keep them in this business and not for them to enter into a private business or some other profession. We would like to keep them here because we feel that the best natural resource of this state is the student.
The Regents for Higher Education are seeking $410 million in state funding. They feel this amount is needed to meet what their staff considers quality standards. Ben McCain, Action 4.
Guidelines are being eliminated, and I think women are beginning to have consequences for the Republican Party.
Absolutely not. The prospects for ratification in Oklahoma look very good. In this state, you have leadership that is not just giving lip service in support of the Equal Rights Amendment, but they have pledged to help to see that it is ratified. Ratification efforts in the state of Virginia and Florida and Georgia look promising as well. So women all over the country are coming together.
Good afternoon, Senator York's office. Well,
Phone calls started pouring into State Senator Marvin York's office today in support of the ERA amendment. As it stands now, only 3 more states need to ratify the amendment to become a part of the Constitution of the United States. A lot of people feel that Oklahoma is a primary state in which the ERA may pass. It's been no secret that Senator York has been in favor of the amendment for some time now. He'd like to bring it before the Senate for a vote early in the next session. I asked him why.
Well, it's an issue that could very easily complicate many of the other issues that the legislature is going to be faced with this session of the legislature. And this is such an emotional thing that, in my opinion, it's one that should be taken up early so that we can get it behind us, win, lose, or draw. We need to make a decision on it. If we're going to call it up for a vote, let's call it up and get that behind us so that we can get about addressing the other issues that, that this session of the legislature is going to have to be grappling with, and I would not like for it to influence what some of the members might want to do on some of these other things.
Senator York thinks the resolution has a 50% chance of passing the Senate, but even if it does, it still has to go to the House, where it's encountered heavy opposition in the past. Carol Lambert, Action 4, the state capitol.
There's a new sound coming from the Oklahoma City Zoo, and it's not coming from the cages. Now, this sound is made by man. It's the sound of construction. Builders have already completed this new zoo entranceway, but there's much more work to be done.
Adjacent to the new gate, major expansion of the main concession stand is underway. When completed, there'll be a restaurant, an open-deck cafe, and a gift shop. The project was paid for by Oklahoma City residents through city bond funds. It's expected to be completed in March.
More? No. Never. Sunday.
On the opposite side of the entrance, a new safari tram station awaits its track. Humans aren't the only ones benefiting from the new construction. Exhibits such as beaks and feet are getting facelifts. Plastic sheets on the aviaries are being replaced by glass, preparing residents for winter.
One of the favorite exhibits at the zoo is the sea lion tank. But soon, in 1982, there'll be another marine exhibit, Aquaticus, adjacent to the sea lion tank. It'll house dolphins and sharks and all kinds of sea life.
But let's not forget the animals that are already in the zoo. Now's the perfect time to visit, when they're enjoying the cool weather. And don't be concerned with all the new construction. It hasn't disturbed the natural beauty of the Oklahoma City Zoo. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
So you can readily see the impact that a hospital in Yukon would have upon our hospital, particularly when you view it along with the shortage that exists in the metro area generally. We are now competing in a very tough market for nurses, for RNs and for LPNs. Will be further complicated if Yukon is in the picture competing for those personnel.
It's very important for us to look at the public's point of view. People are scared. They're actually afraid of the fact that they can't get to a medical facilities. And all the medical facilities in Oklahoma City are adequate. They're very good. They're excellent facilities. But for us that live in a community which is isolated out on the west side of the city, to say to a person, okay, we're going to rush you to the city. We sit there in the clinic and we wait 20, 30, sometimes 40 minutes for an ambulance. We have one ambulance in Yukon at this time. If it's in use, we're out of luck. There is no other facility. And you can't resuscitate a person for 45 to 50 minutes if they need a resuscitator or something else that is not available to you and expect that patient to live.
George with me is the project director for the proposed hospital that is trying to be built in Yukon. Sir, were you surprised by today's decision?
Oh, we're not so much surprised as disappointed. We had a tremendous amount of support from the citizens of Yukon, Mustang, and surrounding areas, and I hope that they will not feel bad about this temporary setback. Certainly will not deter us from our ultimate goal of receiving approval from the Oklahoma Health Planning Commission for the construction of Yukon Community Hospital.
Okay, you mentioned temporary setback. You're going before the full board next week. Do you plan to use a different strategy?
Well, certainly we'll have our expert witnesses there again. I think if we put the facts, the data before the members of the board, that yes, they will approve our application.
One final question. Are you concerned with other people trying to build a hospital also in Yukon?
We are not overly concerned. We feel that our project is far superior to the other projects that are being proposed out there. And of course, we do have the community support. The citizens that reside in the area, they've had an opportunity to look at all three proposals, and they are backing us almost in total.
Thank you very much for joining us for Update. Ed Stewart, Action 4 at the Lincoln Plaza Center.
Just 2 years ago, there were only about 300 oil rigs across the state. Today, the number stands closer to 900. The increase in production, however, is bringing an increase in crime. Oil field theft is fast becoming a multi-million-dollar business. Not only is machinery and crude being stolen, but now criminals are putting drilling mud on their hit list. Almost $60,000 worth of this expensive stolen chemical mud was recovered early yesterday morning in Chickasha at the NASCO Mud Company. Local officials have now proved the merchandise was stolen from the Milchem Company in Ardmore. 6 suspects in the theft were arrested yesterday after they had just unloaded the some 230 bags of Drispac and Desco from a U-Haul. When we asked NASCO officials why the stolen chemical was unloaded at their warehouse, they had no comment. Authorities are questioning the suspects in connection with 4 other similar burglaries across the state. They feel that once the total theft ring is uncovered, stolen property may run as high as $1 million. Captain Danny Sterling says the investigation has been underway almost 10 months. He feels this crack in the case is only a beginning.
We're looking at an operation that we, at this time, have put together that we're looking at $1 million theft operation, at least. I would say, you know, we're going to put a pretty good sized dent in it, but you have so many people at this time stealing oil field equipment, burglarizing mud plants because there is such a high dollar turnover in them. I mean, you can turn them real fast. Anybody wants to buy them anytime, any place, anywhere.
Just as in any crime, prevention is the key. Sterling says that all levels of law enforcement agencies have combined efforts across the state to increase patrol and security. But he adds most officials agree that the Chickasha ring is only the tip of the iceberg. Carol Lambert, Action 4 in Chickasha.
Students at Edmond Public Schools haven't been affected by the ongoing battle between their teachers and the school administration, and they probably won't be. After almost a year, teachers approved a contract, and Monday the Board of Education will decide whether they will accept it. If they don't, it will probably be because of a provision for a 30-minute duty-free lunch period.
The board has said that they don't feel like it's going to be possible. However, it's being done all over the state, and specifically Oklahoma City does it every day. The Oklahoma City teachers do not pull lunch duty.
Skinner says she doesn't expect the board to reject the contract, but if they do, Edmond teachers will stay in the classroom. They have said from the start that there will be no strike, and Skinner says they are sticking with that position. Ted Brown, Action 4.
We had an off-duty officer working inside Montgomery Ward Service Center. Some suspects broke into the center, fled the scene. One suspect was shot. The other 2 have been apprehended and are in custody.
Okay, what about the subject in the ditch? I understand he had a little scuffle with a police officer.
Yes, sir, that's right. We determined he was one of the suspects involved.
K-9 unit, I understand, was involved in that. Was the suspect harmed?
He received a few bites, yes, sir. I don't know to what extent.
Okay, how about the gunshot victim? What about him?
He was shot one time in the lower back and is currently undergoing treatment.
Since the early 60s, the Arcadia Reservoir has been in the making. It will provide water for Edmond and neighboring communities, as well as recreation and flood control. Completion for the project is scheduled for around 1985, but people in the area have already started moving out. Today, a reunion for the residents of the Pleasant Valley community, a time for a final farewell. For a few hours, everyone took a step back in time. Old photographs made it seem like only yesterday.
She said, Mother, did you all have buses? I said, buses? I walked 2.5 miles. What do you mean? We didn't know what a bus was.
The one-room schoolhouse, which opened in 1895, still stands in Pleasant Valley, but will soon become part of the reservoir. Its memories, however, will linger in the minds of many for a long time. Bessie Dietrich, who was one of the last teachers, says the school was the pulse of the community.
Yes, I hated to see it annexed into Arcadia, but of course it did, and it seemed like when they took our rural schools from our communities, that was the heart of the community.
Over 70 families have sold their homes to the government. 90-year-old Pearl Harmon moved to Pleasant Valley 58 years ago, but now she and her son Edward must move on. Likewise, Eva Kirkland hates to say goodbye.
I hate to see this area drowned, because I love every square inch of it, and I hate to see the good families, the children and grandchildren of the people that I knew 75 years ago moved away.
Though people in Pleasant Valley find it hard to envision their land engulfed by water, they agree it's necessary for the protection of the future. Carol Lambert, Action 4.
As Buddy Rose lay near death on the front steps of his South Side home, he was able to tell police who shot him. Immediately, a call went out to locate Don Hickey, a white male driving a black and yellow Oldsmobile. At 11:45 last night, Rose was home with his son when he heard his name being called on his front steps. As he walked outside, 5 shots exploded through the neighborhood.
As I looked at the door and then I went back in and I heard 5 shots and my daddy started hollering. Called the ambulance.
And by the time I got there, I got the ambulance and the policeman, to get over there, but I had just got out of the hospital from being knifed.
Rose's son, Kenneth, was not the only one who responded to the shots.
I was laying in there on the van and I heard the 5 shots go off. And I jumped up, what anybody does in this neighborhood, and grabbed my pistol and run out. And by the time I got out here, they was getting in the car. This one guy was still standing up there, so I fired in the air 3 times. And they jumped in the car and left, and that's all I know about it.
Homicide detectives are still working to find a motive for the shooting. Spencer Briggs, Action 4.
The corner of Southeast 29th and Bryant has been the scene of a number of accidents in the past. Last night, 2 teenagers were entering the intersection on 29th Street when another car ran the stoplight. The 2 teenagers were killed. The driver and the passenger in the second car are in critical condition.
I looked at the stoplight, the east and westbound stoplight, and seen that they were green. And I saw 3 cars in that coming into that intersection. I was trying to watch to see if the Chevelle was going to miss him or not, because I knew he was going to run the light. And so I seen that he was going to hit one of them, and he did hit the dark-colored Camaro and knocked them over into they both locked together. And when they did, they spun 4 or 5 times, locked together off into the field here.
Dead are 17-year-old John Crownover of Oklahoma City and 19-year-old James Gregory of Dell City. Police are still investigating the accident and say they will turn their findings over to the district attorney for possible prosecution. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 AM.
Seagram's and other distillers pulled out of the state because they couldn't keep Oklahoma wholesalers from shipping their products to other states. But a federal court injunction last week prevents the ABC board from enforcing that law, at least until the issue is decided in the state Supreme Court. So the Buckingham Company, distributors of Cutty Sark, are coming back to Oklahoma, but that doesn't necessarily mean Seagram's and the others will follow.
The federal court's preliminary injunction issued by Judge Eubanks only applied to 2 non-resident sellers, and that being Somerset and Bacardi Imports. So it wouldn't have really any bearing on any other non-resident seller that's been that does business in the state of Oklahoma.
But retailers see Buckingham's return as a good sign.
We're missing sales on these particular brands. Some people are changing their brands, but most people still miss their favorite brand, and they would like to have it. And I'd like to see all the brands come back in, not only for my sake, for the sake of the consumers of the state of Oklahoma.
Unfortunately, because of paperwork, Buckingham products may not be back on the shelf until February. Ted Brown, Action 4.
Social change, rapid population growth, all of this into a real concern. It's a little testy. We got in, I think, 83 people in one day. We had people working till midnight down at Lexington, receiving people. They were expecting another 40 people today. So what we've had to do is move people out of Lexington into the Joseph Hart facility, which is also at Lexington. And basically we're double bunking people at Lexington and Joe Hart both. Maybe by the end of the week we may have to be putting a few women double bunked over here at Maple Bassett.
Some of these chemicals were in Oklahoma City public schools during Roosevelt's second term. Over the years, some have changed and are no longer what the label says they are. Others aren't labeled at all. Some of them need to be kept for classes, but not in the large quantities schools have on hand. Teachers and administrators agree they need to get rid of them, but the job is going to be a big one with a big price tag.
To bring our classes into compliance, it's going to cost quite a bit of money. It could go as high as $200,000 if we do everything at every building site. We need to go in and relook at our storage facilities, bring them up to par, make sure they're ventilated correctly, make sure that we have enough flammable storage units, acid units, that everything is neat and tidy.
In the meantime, officials say the chemicals are safe as long as they are handled properly. They say hazardous substances will always be a necessary part of science courses, just as toxic chemicals are common in the average household. More on that later. Ted Brown, Action 4 at Northeast High School. The rodeo packs them in every year. It's sold out months in advance. But the rumors that the rodeo may move to another city persist. And if they ever come true, Oklahoma City stands to lose some revenue.
We have a sporting event that rivals the Super Bowl or a Kentucky Derby or a World Series game. It means, so the Chamber of Commerce people tell me, and economic leaders of the Oklahoma City community, $10 or $12 million in revenue in about a 10-day to 2 weeks period.
Most people we talked to tonight said they'd like to spend that 2-week period in Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City, it's pretty well centrally located right here.
A heck of a long ways from home, but we're here.
I like it down here. Lots of nice people around here, lots of good-looking women in this town. Good partying going on. I wouldn't want to see it leave nowhere.
Everything is so convenient just right here around you. You know, it's hotels, places to eat, and that kind of thing. I think it ought to stay. I don't care if I have to drive 4 hours.